Call the meeting to order and invite you to stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here. First order of business is the insurance check for the sheriff's office. We already received it, yeah. Just as a reminder, this was brought to us last month and we wanted to know where the money was, what account it was in and the process. So do you have anything for us, Jason?
No, just the actual copy that I guess I should have brought last week. Tiffany wasn't at work the last time we talked about this. Tamara wasn't sure where it was at. So this is just to confirm back on December 22nd, that the county did receive that reimbursement fund from the insurance check. The actual line item where it's at in Q cap. So it is there.
All right. Do I have a motion to allow the sheriff's department to spend these funds from QCAP?
I'll make a motion to allow it.
Second?
Do you have an expense now that you're spending it from QCAP, or do you want to transfer it to another account?
No, I don't like this amount in the garage fund. If it's that $3,000 to $5,000 range, we usually transfer to garage. Now we can pay cannons or whoever we're doing. But this amount, I'd rather leave it in there. It's going to be a couple months before I can find another vehicle anyway. I just turned in the bills to Tiffany yesterday on our 21s that we just got that are building now. So that'll take care of the 22 QCAP appropriation for vehicles. So this will have to be taken for a rebuild in another couple of months when we can actually find a vehicle.
So you're not expending it now, you're transferring it to?
We're leaving it right there.
Oh, so we don't have any action necessary.
Yeah. I don't have.
Yeah.
So it's going to sit and wait until we can't find the vehicle, and then we'll build. So it's just going to sit.
So just remain in QCAP until the time comes. That
I don't want to transfer just because that amount is high.
I just don't want you to forget about it.
You know, find a vehicle. You know that.
Yeah.
So there's no action necessary, is there?
No, I don't. I didn't want to transfer. It's at. And that would be just another claim, just like we did there. Then Jody would make the claim, and then we turn it in, and then it would be a payout to the auditor's office, like we did regularly.
Just follow the normal procedure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you want to address the radio?
Yeah, the radio issues I can speak of on the HT side a little bit on what we did. We were able to test a new system, new radio system, due to our current system having our issues. We tested a new system through IPSC and Motorola, combined efforts to those. And this technology is the handheld based radio that you guys carry. It is actually capable of VHF. It's capable of the 900 megahertz, and then it's also capable of LTE. Our major problem was our dead areas in the county. So now what we've done, we've tested this. They brought in all these radios in for us to use, and we did this for about 5 weeks. It's about a 4 to 5 week period through December and into January, in which we really found that the LTE system really worked well in the areas where we didn't have the 800 coverage towards your Aetnas, and it actually covered completely of South Whitley. As soon as you enter any surrounding area of South Whitley, with that being our most troubled area besides that, and maybe a little bit of Robinson Lake, and then the 750 North area, it actually, it locked into LTE just like your cell phone would, and it never lost compatibility or transmission. So we've tried it inside buildings and things like that. It's also worked up. Cherubusco PD was a bad area. The guys, if they were inside the PD doing paperwork or anything else, they couldn't hear dispatch, and now they can. We do that side-by-side comparison. So it really worked out well. Commissioners have been on board with this. I don't know if, Chad, do you have anything to say about how this is funded, or do you want to go to the council and come back? You just want me to explain kind of where it's coming from? Okay. The ARC money And speaking to the commissioners, that's what kind of avenue they wanted us to take as far as using some of the ARP funds and things like that, as far as going to that route for the purchase of the radios. Janelle has some information on the console side of things, so I'll leave her speaking to that side.
So I'll tell you a little bit about the radio consoles. They are Motorola 7500 radio consoles. Motorola will upgrade them at year 3, 5, and 9. Our current system is upgraded as needed. They do a software update on the computers every year, but that's about it on our current ones. They use the IPSC system, which they hardwire right into the state system, and that's the 800 system. All 92 counties use that. There's 2,500 agencies. There's no issues. 28 counties use these 7,500 radio consoles, more than 20,000 in the United States. 4 in Indiana use the current ones that we have, us being one of them. And then 380 worldwide. So these consoles will interact with the state system better, with our HTs better, with other counties better. Most of the surrounding counties, with the exception of Kosciuszko, they do not have these consoles, but most of them do. They really like them. They are monitored 24/7. Currently, our consoles are only monitored during business hours, and then we find a problem after hours when we go to use something and it doesn't work. Then we have to call them in. Motorola has a tech that lives in our county, so if something happens, he can be here in no time at all. He lives about 3 miles outside of town. They connect directly to the state, so dispatch has priority, whereas right now, when we key up our radio to talk to the guys, it's just like any other car radio or HT keying up in the state, we don't have priority. So we can't, if somebody else is on it, we get a busy signal. We can't override that if we have emergency information. There's 6 channels on the Columbia City Tower. One is a control channel, and that just is used all the time. It tells the radios what channel to grab so you can talk. The other 5 are shared by police departments, fire departments, EMS, state highway, anybody else that uses the IPSC system and hits our Columbia City Tower. Another thing you can do with these consoles is create a super crew. So if you have a big incident or a pursuit coming through, you can connect everybody together. That uses one channel instead of several different ones with the different agencies. Less busies.
Questions?
Talk money.
I would like to use the ARP, and I can use 200,000 out of 911 funds to put towards it.
What would the balance be?
200, and let me look at it here. It's a big
I don't
contract.
have a hard copy of that, do we?
Do you have it right on top?
We don't have hard copies.
I was just looking for that. Teresa, the commissioners
I can
are
look it up on
confident
my
that this is appropriate.
I got it right.
So my only concern was, obviously, we've been talking about combining dispatch, especially with the jail being built. There's really no better time to do it than when we do build the new jail. So my only concern was, if we purchase them, they can be moved, but if we combine and then we don't need them, that's a lot of money spent on something that we're only going to be using for a few years. So that was my only concern. Commissioner Banks and Trump, they were okay with it. So I guess it's up to you guys now.
And I understand the handhelds are obsolete.
We're down to 6 repairs that have to actually be sent to the factory. We didn't want to send those in. That model is going, yes. So we're to the point of replacement issue now. Now it was just a choice of now, what are we looking for? What do we need?
And
This,
go ahead.
but this isn't a handheld issue that we're talking about right now,
Talking
right?
about two things, though.
This
I
is,
did a handheld and she was talking about the consoles. The consoles came up because of their longevity lifespan and the current issue here. And the fact that we could take care of some art money now with that, and she's got money to put into it now. The way money is going up and the prices are going up over the next 3 to 4 years, and our current state of what the consoles are, replacing the value of those. Is this going to be able to, is this a good time to do this now with funds available? And she has funds available to combine those to kind of offset maybe some costs later, in another 2 years when we have to do it. Or what are we going to run into now with these consoles pushing 8 years old? Are we going to get in the middle of something replacement anyway? Our money's going. So I think that we're trying to lay out a foundation or plan that we can do this by trying to use some money she has available instead of her money.
But essentially, the new consoles are not necessary for the handhelds to work properly. So they're two separate.
This all started based on the handhelds getting replaced now. So that was a given that we needed that done.
Did you happen to find the number?
278,000. No, that's just the balance on the consoles. Do you want the amount for the handhelds, or do you have that?
We have no hard copies.
$257,093.30.
So Jason, what are you actually asking us for today?
We are actually asking permission to do a full upgrade system wide. What we need, what I'd like to see today, at bare minimum, I'd like to see everything pushed forward. We get to one system, one vendor, be under one roof, and get that. Well, then we're still gonna deal with two vendors, one on each side, one on the dispatch side. If we go to one vendor, it's one blanket covers the site's phone communications, so it's one regular issue. It's not somebody put things anybody else. We would like to see the HTs get ordered as soon as possible. I know, we have 6 down right now. We have 4 rentals, or basically loaners from Motorola right now, 2 guys, because we are out radios. It's 600 to 1,000 to fix anyway to send it back in at bare minimum. So let's go with that. So I got at least a minimum of $4,000 to $6,000 in radio repairs and radios that need replaced anyway. I don't know what the money is. Our money is there. It's written there. That's one of the major things that is controlled by ARP is there. As they recited it to us. But I would like to see the whole project push forward, so it's all one system talking to each other. In the past, we've had experiences, and this is coming from people's experience as far as you have this box talking to this box, and things don't communicate well when they're not the same vendor, they're not the same brand, they're not built to work with each other. We've had problems there. But this will put us all under one roof. Today, I would like to see us move forward in that direction.
What's your lead time?
Well, you're talking, what was the concept? You're 8 weeks now. It was 4 to 6 weeks on the radios as far as HTs getting in and being able to get those pushed out. We're talking 8 maybe weeks now at best, just because the products are becoming harder to get, accessories, things like that. The console side was months.
Yeah.
So we're talking anywhere from 6 to 8 months, I think. Then the switch over value would be like a 2 down, 2 up switch, and then the other 2 move. Or one.
I have another question then regarding the consoles. With that kind of lead time, what sort of penalty would there be if somehow there was to be progress on a consolidated dispatch and we canceled those?
On your quote that you have, there's one quote. Is this from the corporation and it's the same no matter who you go to? Or did you
Yeah,
go
it's
out and
from-
quote it from other companies?
No, it's from Motorola.
Okay.
And then ERS is the local vendor. But this is actually from Motorola.
Correct.
And then is there an additional maintenance fee after that, or is it included with the purchase?
No, you'll have a yearly maintenance fee, just like we have now. I mean, on everything, you have a yearly maintenance fee.
I took time and I met with Janelle and went through the dispatch center. I see the need for new consoles, but I think if I heard Teresa correctly, your concern is we're going to build a new jail. We're going to put a new dispatch center in.
Not in the jail as of now. We just simply can't afford it. Right now, we're pinching pennies to get as many beds as we can. And they're saying a new dispatch center could be a couple $2 million that we just don't have. So I don't know what combining would look like, but as you guys know, I don't know if you guys have looked at the Baker Tilly reports from our financial advisor. But it just doesn't make financial sense. And it also doesn't make financial sense to have 2 dispatch centers and having our county residents paying for 2. So again, I don't know what that would look like to consolidate, but with the new jail coming, there's no better time to do it than when we do that.
I think the sheriff would like to make a comment.
While you're coming up, I'll make a comment. Come on up to the microphone, Mark. I don't understand how we can plan on building a new jail and not have a plan for radio communications, because, I mean, how far are we along in coming to an agreement with the city that we're going to combine dispatch?
So we've spoken to the mayor. He's more than willing to combine. He agrees that it doesn't make financial sense to have 2. But again, we don't know what that would look like, if it would be ran by a board or how that would work. The city has updated everything in their dispatch center. So I don't know how that would look if we would keep it in the jail and then that's where they're at. So I don't know, but it would be sooner rather than later.
Personally, I think there's a lot of I don't knows there that doesn't make sense, that we wouldn't be planning radio communications if we're building a $30 million jail. I mean, I would think that would have to be an integral part of it, but that's my opinion. Mark, I'll turn it over to you. I'm sorry.
Okay, I talked to Sheriff Saylor last week, which they just built a new Fulton County jail. They came in at 24.1 million. Their finals was gonna be last Thursday, but he thought that was a pretty solid number. Their dispatch center cost $250,000 minus the equipment to move in to build that building, or that space in that building. Other questions I have, we've had 3 different studies on this consolidated. The sheriff's department roughly covers 21,000 people of the population. And logistically, if the dispatch center is off site, I don't know how we're going to, the sheriff's department under code is responsible for civil process, warrants and stuff. So honestly, I feel that the dispatch center should be at the sheriff's department jail so people can walk in and grab their warrants and do things there. Now, I don't know how consolidated ones do it. Who has the warrants? Does somebody have to be taken to jail and then they drive to the city dispatch where the terminal's at to grab the warrant and go back and read it? I don't know how that would work, but I feel the county serves, we take out Columbia City, Busco, and South Whitley, and the county serves just about 21,000 people compared to what they serve. So I feel it should be at the sheriff's department new jail. And if Fulton's correct, where we can build that room for $250,000 with the wiring run, and we can purchase this, we will be up and running and need less towers and less equipment to run this system, because we'll be using cell phone technology a lot too.
In the state system. So
In the state system,
there,
yes.
it's already towers up there. So we're just utilizing it.
That's all I have, unless you have questions.
So the total of the councils is what? Okay, want to make sure that, because it's 278 plus your 200,000, okay? And then the handhelds are separate. I've been in on some discussions where the commissioners have talked about the jail. And I think it's been 30 years plus that we have tried to combine with the city some type of dispatch. Because when you look and the dispatches are half a block apart. There's no reason to have two systems going, and I think that's, Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, and Teresa, I think that's kind of the feeling of the commissioners, that we can save taxpayers a lot of money with one system. We're one of the few communities, I believe, that has this separate. And so to spend the 400,000, the handhelds, I don't think is a question, Jason. But to spend the council for the councils now and put it in here, and then we moved to a new jail, which if we put dispatch in the jail, then we're moving. Should we just wait and make that decision? And if we do put a dispatch in the jail, then we put the new councils in there. I think that's what the commissioners are debating, and talking to the city at the same time to see if we can combine that. We went and visited Adams County Jail, and they run their whole county with 9 or 10 dispatchers. Combined, the city and county has 24. So there can be a tremendous amount of savings, upgrades and savings to the system. And I think that's what the commissioners are looking at, and seeing if we can combine with the city. And I don't think we're ready personally to buy councils at this time. I think I'm like Thor, you got a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Well, I guess I would ask if this is something, I found out about it last week, and I've tried to always be transparent with dispatchers and my whole staff. Well, this has already caused, because there's not a true timeline, there's not this has already caused, last time this talk came up, I lost 3 dispatchers because they thought, well, we've already had one come forward that said they're going to start looking because the market's good. So I guess for my staff's own mindset, I guess I'd like to see a timeline if this is going to go or if this isn't, because I hate to lose more staff and then it not be moved. Because like Janelle, we were going to do interviews next week, but we don't want to interview somebody and say, we don't know if you're going to have a job in another 6 months. Do you want to come aboard or don't you? So I get there's hard decisions there. I just want to be honest with people about it.
How short-staffed are you right now?
We're 1 in there and 2 in the jail.
And just as a comment, it's not going to be 6 months, because it wouldn't happen until the jail were actually in place if it were to be combined, I would think. But I understand people not wanting to take a job with the sense that it's very short term because of the training involved and everything else. I agree with Jim that the handhelds are essentially essential at this moment. But any further discussion about process?
So I know it's early in the stages. Any idea, expectations when a new jail would be built and ready to move into?
So right now, they're going over the prototype. I believe Sheriff and the jail commander, Sean, are going over on different things that they would like moved. Obviously, as commissioners, I don't know anything about what they would need as a jail, so I'm deferring to them on that.
We might be a little farther. We have a meeting this week again, and we've done
Yes.
some looking and studying of the plan. So I don't know how far we'll move forward this week, but at least we're still moving forward. So
Sure. So as soon as we get that done, I believe we're going to hire a construction project manager. Commissioner Banks, is that?
So we're exploring a CM at risk, construction manager at risk model, in which case you would have the architect, and then you would have a company like, for example, YGM Construction, who would oversee the entire build of the jail, and they would handle the hiring of subcontractors, and it would remove any need for an owner's rep. That wouldn't be necessary at all anymore, because you would have YGM oversee all the construction pieces. So that's, I think, where we are. We're just still exploring Elevatus is working with Ice Miller on a timeline. And then Ice Miller can advise us more on financing, on the model, how we would need to do that. I was really encouraged because the email you said 24/1, 23/1 was the actual number in the email that you sent to us.
Okay,
for,
sorry, thanks.
Fulton County Jail. And that was just completed. So I know that construction prices and material have gone up, but I'm really encouraged to see that 23/1.
And that was 230. That's more beds than, we could drop back even.
Right, yeah, I would hate to, but I was just really encouraged to see that number. So just kind of following Sheriff Saylor's and Fulton County's experience. But what we would be proposing most likely is going to model what they did, where you had a construction manager working with the architect to build. But we really don't know timeline right now. We have no idea. I don't even know. We haven't even made decisions on financing or any of that.
So do we have an estimate though from groundbreaking to availability? I mean, how many months did it take Fulton County, that kind of thing? I mean,
I guess I would refer if you would give us till roughly about June, right? Because that's what they were roughly hoping to have a better plan by June.
Okay.
So with the timeline laid out. I mean, there's a lot. We're going through 4 different sets of plans right now to try to make, I guess, what would fit Whitley County the best. Because the cell pods are prefab, so they're pretty well set how they are. It's the booking area on up front through the admin area and offices that's about the only little things you can tweak in that part. And that's what we're trying to do right now, so we can give it to the architect and have them draw it up, which then we'll give a lot better close to what it's going to cost than just looking at plans right now.
So as of right now, there's not a dispatch center in the jail? Or not,
The current plans would include a dispatch center.
the current plans will include it.
Right.
And that's Adams County.
Yeah, Adams and Fulton and DeKalb, which is strong but not built. And there's one other that was built based on the prototype. And they all include a dispatch center. And as far as the dispatch center, I would just say, and I think Teresa would agree, we're still in the very early stages of exploring combined dispatch. And, there's a lot that we'll consider. We would proceed with that carefully, but I would say that we're nowhere near combining. We're just exploring.
Well, having went through the Adams County facility and looking at it, the dispatch center was a room that was quite honestly smaller than this room, right? On the plans that you're looking at, the dispatch center for the new jail.
Now, Fulton counties would be just a tad bigger. So, I mean, they're all different.
So it's not like we're going to squeeze that room out. It's still going to be there and available when you're moving forward to build the new plans. So we can't plan a jail without having that space available. Whether it ends up getting completely wired or not and becomes a dispatch center is kind of irrelevant on the space that you're planning for it, though.
Yeah, the only change would be the elevated floor for wiring. That's the difference in the dispatch center compared to the other rooms there. They put an elevated floor to run wiring and be able to get under and get to it.
Does anyone want to bring a motion about what to approve expenditures for?
Well, I'd like to finish, when I met with Janelle, I can see the need for the consoles without a doubt. But we're in the middle of building a jail now. We're gonna spend 23 million to 30 million. We're gonna put a dispatch center in it. So, and try and buy new consoles now, then move them, or working with the city on the dispatch center. The radios, HTs, without a doubt, you need them now. The consoles, I know you need them, but I'm not sure I can sit here and spend $470,000 and then hopefully 2 or 3 years have a new dispatch center with all the new stuff in there for the dispatchers. That's where I'm at.
Now, would the plan be to move these consoles to a new facility? So it's not a double expenditure on that side. Okay.
If you wait, the cost just goes up.
Well, and how outdated will these consoles be in 2 years when the jail opens? How outdated are they?
Come back here.
Current ones?
No,
The
no.
new one.
That's, there'll be new ones too. But I want a recommendation. Commissioners. I want a
So I guess one thing, if I can add, so with the ARP funds,
Yeah.
we're going to try to spend as much of that as we can on the jail. You just have to be able to link it to, I guess, health reasons is kind of what our financial advisor said. So we're saving as much money as we can to hopefully spend as much of that as we can on the jail. So if at that point that we do need new consoles, I mean, obviously, absolutely, it's a no-brainer. We'll purchase them if that's what we decide to do, if that's makes the most sense. So
I'm in agreement that the handhelds are needed rapidly. I agree with that. The consoles, I think, there's too many unknowns.
and the commissioners are fully in support of the radios as well. We know that they desperately need them. My only concern was with the consoles.
And
You know, it's a
was that
shame there's so many unknowns at this point.
one way or the
It
other?
really is.
So I don't know if you want to speak. So I think Commissioner Banks and Trump were okay with purchasing both of them. Again, my concern was with purchasing them and then with the unknowns. The radios, obviously, they do need them. However, I do believe, I'm 99% sure if we combined, they will work with the city's current technology, so they wouldn't need to buy anything and we wouldn't need to buy anything, correct? So,
They'd all be the same vendor.
so, and they do desperately need these radios, so we have absolutely no issues with that. They are a need.
If we go with just the handhelds, that's what they're called, right? Then you're back to having to work with two vendors. Okay.
Let
That's
me
not
ask you a
ideal
question,
either.
though. The handhelds will be available months before the consoles are ready, right?
6 days, 6 tops. 8
Okay.
Weeks on the handheld.
Right. But we're talking months on the consoles. What about authorizing the handhelds now? Some of us talking with Janelle and the sheriff's department to get some more information, to answer some more of our questions, and then considering the consoles again next month.
I would, I would like to add really before this goes any further that for transparency, that there could be a perceived, if not real, conflict of interest on my part on making a decision here. So I just want that to be said and everybody to understand that there's a potential perception or real conflict of interest in any decision that I would make as far as voting on it.
It's a fair statement.
As in the council's store or as in HTs or anything?
I think when we start talking about councils, when we start talking about combined dispatch, I think that's,
Just that point. So HTs, you don't have a problem.
I have absolutely no problem with the HTs and I will move forward in that. It's just the second part
I
of it.
understand.
So do I have a motion to authorize purchase of the HT radios?
I'll make a motion. Go ahead, John. John made the motion. I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Thank you. That shows unanimous. Is there a motion to purchase consoles?
I would like to table the console discussion and I'd like to have a report, something hard in front of us, and a recommendation, a clear recommendation from the commissioners on their position.
I would make a motion that we would purchase them just to get the motion on the floor. Maybe it doesn't get a second, but if it does, then it can go to a vote and that'll give the sheriff's department an idea of where they stand also on that to move forward. So I guess I got two motions.
Yeah, we've got it. Pardon?
It's on the consoles.
So we have a motion to table. Is there a second to that first?
That's your motion to table
No.
for now?
No, that's
Jim
my-
is
that
on
was my
mine first.
motion.
Table until when?
Till we got a hard report. I mean, we're throwing figures out here and we have nothing in writing as to,
We have a quote.
okay? But
We just don't have our.
But I want the commissioners to give us a hard recommendation.
We can do that.
Yeah, I think that's only fair for you guys too.
So we had a full discussion about it yesterday, just short of doing a favorable pass. I don't like doing favorable passes. I didn't call for one, but yesterday we had a discussion in our commissioner meeting about that. And, you know, we can certainly come back and, you know, our next meeting and call for a vote on a favorable pass. But basically, you had two commissioners yesterday who said that we support this purchase, and one with valid concerns who said no. And so, you know, it's totally fine if you'd rather we do a formal favorable or unfavorable pass.
I don't think anybody's against the councils. I think it's the timing of when, I think Tom's got a valid point that this is $500,000. And then if we don't use them, I mean, I think within a few months, we're gonna know if we're gonna use them or not. And then I think in 2 years, technology will change a lot, always has. And if we're gonna purchase them for the new jail, we might as well get the newest and greatest at that point. But I'm a little confused. I'm not confused that we don't need them, but when, the timing, I guess, is my confusion on it.
So we have a motion to table. Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Now we have a motion to purchase, to authorize purchase of the consoles. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I'm still, nothing against you, Janelle. I'm still against that building a new jail, trying to get with the city on dispatch. Everything's just in a circle right now, and I can't sit here and go, okay, I'll just give you $478,000. I don't want to lose employees or dispatchers. I want to give them hope down the road. We're going to have a new dispatch center with new radios, but as of right now, for me to vote on that, I can't do that. Not on the councils. The HTs are not questioned at all. But that's where I'm at.
Marcus, Jason, does not having the councils put our officers at greater risk?
Because of all of the wear and tear and
The failure of,
we have now, that type of issue, we don't always see with the third shift calls for maintenance issues or upgrades. As far as like what Mr. Albright said, as far as the latest and greatest, I think though, with the contract with being upgraded, just as we get in there, we're 2 years away now, we're actually probably 2.5. Roughly, we're gonna be upgraded to the newest anyway by the time of the first year we're in that jail. Or they might actually do that once they move everything in. So I don't know the technology, I don't know, equipment wise, I think we should be okay as far as keeping up to date.
so it's actual replacement of the equipment.
Yeah.
It's not just software and
Well, there,
maintenance.
if you look at a console, the console's like a computer. They can be upgraded with different programming and come up. Yeah, I feel, back to the question, I feel that, you know, there's so many questions about the dispatch because Columbia City makes so much more than our dispatchers. Their healthcare is better, their benefits are better, you know, there's so much to work out. Who's gonna pay for what? Whose employees are they gonna be? What plan are they gonna be under? So I get where you're coming from, talking about how much is going on, but the new jail realistically is probably over 2 years out. And if we don't move or do anything in that time, that's 2 years, I feel, of better safety for the officers on the roads, the fire departments. That's my opinion. Okay, I have respect where you come from too, but that's my opinion on it. That's a better safety issue for us if we have no.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have to agree with John. There's just too many ifs. If we had more of a security on what the future is going to hold, I don't think it would be a decision that is so hard to make. If we're going to build a new jail, I feel like we need to have, I want them to have what they need, the best of the best at that point, whatever we can afford. I think there's too many questions up in the air and we don't know what's the future is. And $500,000 there again, that's a lot of money. The handhelds, I agree with. That's my opinion.
Do we have a call for the question or more discussion?
I have served on committees, task force multiple times on the combination of dispatch on it. When you look at the picture of saving money, the ideal situation is a single dispatch. Then the question comes up whether it should be at the Columbia City Police Department or the the Whitley County jail system on it. Ideally, it would be an off-premise building with a committee serving on how to do it on it, supervising it on it. Every time we went through this, and like I say, I've been on the committee task force multiple times on it. It always come out as it was not financially feasible to put an off-premise dispatch. So that means you have to go to one area or another, whether it's the Whitley County jail system or Columbia City Police Department on it. And in the past on it, we always come up with no decision on whether to do it or not. So ideally on it, unless there's some miracle comes up that combines the dispatch on it, we're going to stay with a 2 dispatch system on it. For Whitley County, the council should be at the sheriff's department. And that's the way it's been in the past. And like I say, I've been on multiple task force committees and the decision has been leave them as 2. And that's why I second Thor's motion.
You ready to vote? All in favor of the motion to authorize the purchase of the consoles, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Same sign. And let the record show that it is divided equally. So no action is taken at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Question back to the first motion, was that for that money to come out of ARP for the H2s?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah, as you'd already arranged with the commissioners. Thank you all for your honest discussion. Todd Geiger would come now and report on the Forage development update. And if you would just note that this last discussion has gone on significantly longer.
No, I don't.
Thank you. Morning.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. Just want to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to come here this morning and just share an update about our Forage youth development program here in Whitley County. Obviously, due to COVID, it feels like it's been a while since I've been able to be here. So just wanted to share where we're at and some different things that we're doing within our program. So I'm just going to highlight just a couple here this morning. The first one's our Forage STEM Connection program. This was a program that I launched 3.5 years ago. Has lots of different pieces to it. The first part is I recruit a high school team of kids and I teach them tons of different hands-on STEM activities. So STEM, science, technology, and engineering. And I kind of run them through the whole gamut. So everything from they learn the different hands-on activities to really coaching them on how to actually teach and lead on their own. Once we get that process done, I reach out to the schools and I book different events, whether it be with a specific classroom or with a whole grade level. And then we go out during the actual school day, and that team of high school kids actually leads the activities. I do not. I usually bring, I call them our army of adult volunteers along with us. Anywhere from about 5 to 8 adult volunteers go along. We just become the supply people during that hour to 2 hours while the kids actually do all the leading. So the kids at the schools love it. Lots of different hands-on things. Coming from a classroom myself, I was an elementary teacher for 15 years. I always thought I did STEM really well. But when you really look at STEM education, you can't do STEM really well when you're 1 on 25 or 1 on 30 kids. STEM's meant to be hands-on in very small groups. And really in any school to break it down and have that small groups and have somebody there actually instructing and leading, plus having all the supplies. So kids actually have the opportunity to do an activity one-on-one is really a strain, both on material wise and time wise, and obviously just simply physical, like basically manpower. So that program really took off over those 3.5 years. We have been in nearly every elementary school in the county. So it's been tremendous. And then obviously COVID hit, which eliminated us from being able to go into school buildings, as well as all of you if you visit schools. Parents couldn't get in either. So as time went on, COVID continued to linger. We weren't able to get into schools. I really didn't want to lose that connection with all the elementaries across the county. So I pivoted that program to a kit with our team that I was still able to meet with. So we took some of those activities and we had to break them down because our typical event would look like we would go to, say, Churubusco Elementary. We would go visit their entire 3rd grade. So the 3rd graders would stay in their individual classes, but then they would come to us. We would break them up into groups of 7 to 10, and then they would rotate. We would bring 3 to 4 activities, so they would have 3 or 4 different experiences while we were there. So now we're taking a kit, and that kit, due to COVID, can only go to one classroom and couldn't go anywhere else. So plus everything that went into the kit wasn't coming back to us either. So we knew whatever we put into it was theirs to keep, and it wasn't going across the hallway. So we wanted to keep costs down when we go out with our regular team in person. The only thing we're really trying to get back is our supply costs. So we just charge $2 a kid to replace the supplies that we take out. And we wanted to keep our kits roughly at the same price, even though we're going through lots more material than what we would if we were going in person and could share things. So luckily we were able to do that. That was a tremendous undertaking because we also took all of our STEM activities and we went through all the Indiana academic state standards and we matched up every activity with Indiana academic state standards. So if we had a 4th grade teacher call and say, I would really like these activities, do they align with what we're teaching in the classroom? I could say, absolutely, I got a whole kit that's ready for you, all aligned with 4th grade science standards, math standards, things like that. So took a long time to get that done. We spent 3.5 months actually building those. We weren't ready to launch until about the end of April of last year. But once we made the announcement that we were ready, we started at only one school because our team was going to have to do all the purchasing, packing, and delivering of all those. By the end of May, we had actually had 19 orders from 19 different classrooms. We built 19 kits and delivered those and was able to reach over 400 kids in really a 3-week span before school got out. So we were thankful to have that connection. Another thing that makes our program unique is when we do go into a school, the teachers really kind of take a mental break. They're not the ones leading what we do. They can, excuse me, stand in the background and just really kind of help us with crowd control. I wanted somehow to kind of keep that in place with the kit I didn't want to just give the teachers something for them to decipher, get laid out, lead everything. So with that team, the reason why, another part why it took so long is our team actually videoed every single activity. And we put it up on our YouTube channel. And so when we got an order from a classroom, we were able to physically deliver the kit, and we sent them a link to that specific batch of activities so they could put it up on their screen. And all they had to do was unpack the kit, and then the kids could follow along with us when they played the video. So, which was great to be able to have that. Teachers thanked us because, you know, they didn't want just another thing, and they were unpacking something that they were totally unfamiliar with and have to learn it before leading it with the kids. Really, all they had to do was get it out, and we had the supply list, and they would just lay everything out on the table, put up our video, and the kids could follow along with us as we went through the activity. So, give you a quick update for this year. So typically on our team of, I call them our team of teachers, those high school kids, we usually range anywhere from about 8 to 12 kids from all 3 high schools that are involved in that. This year, I actually have 14 that we have trained. We just finished up training a week ago, right before the snowstorm hit. So we are ready to go. I'm actually launched with the schools yesterday to let them know that the team's ready to go, to let us know if we have any dates. And I think I've already received 3 emails this morning of schools and grade levels that are wanting our team to come in. So we're excited about that. So switching gears over to Robotics Camp. This was a brand new venture this past summer. Columbia City High School had actually reached out to me with the idea that they wanted to do something with STEM, maybe over the summer, to try to bridge a gap that they were seeing between the middle school and the high school, and the pathways in high school that they're seeing with that hands-on science, technology, engineering. And at the high school level, sometimes you hear Project Lead the Way, which is a lot of technology type skill building, and they were seeing their enrollment in those pathways was either kind of stale or declining. So they're really trying to drill down to see why that is. Obviously, kids today are very interested in technology. So looking in the world of robotics, they knew that I had the equipment to do robotics, and I do robotics at the elementary level, wondering if we could do a robotics camp over the summer that would be promoted to 7th, 8th, and 9th graders in Indian Springs Middle School. So that would have been for current 7th, 8th, and 9th graders today. I said I'm all for it. Unfortunately, in June, that's my crazy time of the year, as we're leading up to the 4-H fair. So I said we definitely got to get some help. So we also partnered with the Peabody Library STEM department, and we were able to host a 1-week robotics camp. It met for 2 hours for 5 straight days at Columbia City High School. It was amazing. They said they would do all the promotion for it as long as I got them the flyers and everything. They asked how many days it should run and how many kids we should maybe limit it to. And I said, we're probably looking at 20, maybe 22 based on the equipment. With 2 of us running it, I definitely want to make sure they have hands-on opportunities, and I don't want it to be overwhelming and we lose kids and lose interest. And they were like, how many days? And I'm like, it won't be days, it will be hours. You're gonna have to shut this thing off once we launch it. And they said, okay. So she launched it, and I got a phone call at like 2 p.m. and she said, oh my gosh, what do I do? I have 27 laying on the office counter already. And I was like, stop taking them. 27, we'll take the 27, but we're done right there. So we literally filled in less than 1 school day. It was awesome. Shockingly, as you look at middle school and high school age kids, how committed are they? Sometimes that's a skill that needs work in middle school and high school kids. All 27 showed up 5 straight days. We didn't have a single kid miss. And then our last day on our survey, we asked them if we offered it again, would you return? All 27 said absolutely, we would come back. They loved it. So that was great. It was a neat opportunity. We're looking at turning that into an annual event. So we're super excited to offer On the backside, I just wanted to share some of our traditional 4-H programming numbers. So number of youth that were involved in our 4-H program last year was 747. The year prior, so I call it the year COVID actually hit, we had 781. So if you're obviously COVID hit in March of 2020. So our number leading up to before COVID hit was 781. So yes, we saw a decline when we were really in our first full year with COVID here. As with anything, everybody saw a decline in participation. I was thankful that we were only down, less than 40 kids. There were numerous counties across the state that lost over 50% of their 4-H families and kids just simply due to COVID. They were, very leery about interacting and being in a group and doing things like that. So our adult volunteers. So we had 152 this past year. These are not the folks that we're talking about that you see the week of fair that are helping in the concession stand. They're helping at the grandstands taking tickets. These are not the folks we're talking about. These are the ones that actually come to us. They fill out the paperwork. We do a full background check, and they are interacting directly with our youth. So that's a tremendous number in Whitley County. Yes, the year before we had 161. Volunteerism, though, across the country and whatever organization you're in is all a decline. So I'm thankful we're not seeing a severe decline in our 4-H volunteers. Our static projects, those are our non-livestock projects. We had a total of 707 static projects exhibited at our 2021 Whitley County 4-H Fair. Those are our top 5 projects. So photography was number 1. We had 98 kids in photography, all the way down to number 5 was construction toys. We had 30. That was a new project that we launched 3 years ago, was construction toys. So if you think Legos, Connects, things like that, where kids are assigned specific skills and then they do a build and present a project. Next is our animal projects. We had 1,582 head of livestock on our fairgrounds that were judged this past summer. In most counties, those numbers are completely opposite. Your static projects, so your non-livestock and your animal projects are usually 2 to 1. So you have twice as many static as you do animals. In Whitley County, we're the other way. We have twice as many animals as we do static. We have a historic animal project, and our county 4-H program has been known for its livestock. So super strong right there. Our top projects in animals, goats. We had 291 head of goats on our fairgrounds. That was an all-time record number here in Whitley County, to the point that our fair board is looking at an addition onto the goat barn for this upcoming summer because we simply can't hold them. Clear down to number 5 was feeder calves with 186 of those. Our mini 4-H numbers, that is our kindergarten through 2nd grade program. We had 132 kids in that program this last summer. The year COVID hit, before March of 2020, we had 139. We were definitely headed to a record pace in 2019, 2020 before COVID hit. We are almost to that number already, and we are only at the beginning of February. So I'm super excited. I think I totally look for our mini 4-H program to top 150 this year. It's an awesome age to work with, to get those kids excited and do hands-on things. Just really give them the experience of learning skills that they already have. I'm a numbers guy, so I like to see where our program's headed and where we're currently at. So our number of kindergartners, the reason why I look at that number is that's their first year they're able to interact with our program. We had 49 kids that were kindergartners this last year as a part of our program. So I'll skip a bullet point there and look at our number of first year members. So we had a total of 134 kids that were first year members. However, when you switch from our mini 4-H program of kindergarten through 2nd grade to our traditional 4-H of 3rd grade through 12th grade, when you're a 3rd grader, you're counted over again as first year. So it takes a lot of looking at data to be able to figure out what's our true number of first-year kids. So that's what the next bullet point is what number of those were true first-year kids, not in kindergarten and not in third grade. So that was 56. So what does that tell me? You actually have to look at the opposite end. How many kids are we graduating out of the program or in their final year? We had 58 last year. So what's that tell me? Coming through COVID, our numbers are staying steady. So we're bringing in as many as we're seeing go out the door. So that's good to know, especially through the difficult times of COVID. One other thing to highlight on there that I didn't touch was our mini 4-H animal mentor program. We had 67 of those 132 mini 4-Hers that were involved in that program. That's where we partner them up with an older 4-Her as their mentor. They pick a specific species of animal that they're really interested in, and then we truly get them hands-on experience where they go to that mentor's home, they learn about those animals that are there, and in the week of fair, we kind of give them a celebration time by letting them come into the show ring with their mentor and their mentor's animal, and they're able to be in the show ring and share with typically our older 4-Hers what it is they learned, and give them that opportunity to feel like they were able to show at the 4-H fair. So. Two brand new programs that we're launching right now. One is called Cookies and Canvas. That's actually going to be on Valentine's Day night. That's open to any kid in grades 3 through 12. Where we're going to give the kids an opportunity. It's all going to be fun to them, but they're actually learning skills while they're doing it. So we're actually going to let them mix up a batch of cookies. We're going to bake them at the 4-H center, and then we are going to flip our interest over to the arts, and we are going to put them in front of their own piece of canvas, and we are going to live feed in an actual painter, and they're going to give them skills and tips on how to actually paint on canvas, and at the end of the night they're going to be able to take home their own canvas painting that they've done. So so that's a brand new one that we're offering coming up on Valentine's Day night. Another one that we're going to offer starting at the end of February is called Tech Fest. That's going to be open to the youth in grades 3 through 6. Tech Fest is just exactly that. We're going to look at robotics, computer coding, using all different types of robots. And that's coming up. We're going to host that actually over at the Whitley Career Center. And I'm doing that in partnership with Kosciuszko County 4-H because we share the Whitley Community Schools District with Kosciuszko. So we're going to host that over there. We actually just launched that here over the weekend, and I think we already have 6 or 8 kids that have already signed up for that. So just some different things that we're doing beyond the traditional 4-H world, more youth development oriented. So any questions for me?
Well, thank you, Todd, and we commend your efforts, and particularly the collaboration and partnership aspect.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the longevity discussion. We tabled this last month for more specific information. You received in your packet information from Tiffany, actually, which came from our consultants, and then also her explanation. There is no desire to change anyone's date, anniversary date, or the date by which their longevity is figured. It's just a payroll concern to actually pay it in January. Do you have anything else that you want to add to that?
Make a motion, we approve the January longevity pay date.
I have a motion and a second.
You do have a second?
No, I'm sorry.
I will second.
I'm seeking a second.
Yep, I will second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, if we do change this, we need to make sure we really inform the employees so they're aware they're not going to get that check in November or those funds in November. I think that's important.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. There are none. That shows unanimous.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, appreciate Tiffany, you putting the explanation in on the longevity that it does go in to figure on overtime, and I appreciate that clarification.
I believe those numbers are used when figuring their pension also, right? Yep.
Anything else? Next item on the agenda are the 2022 boards and appointments. The meeting minutes from the last month reflect that all of the council members accepted their continuing appointments to the same boards. And as I look at the list we received of appointments, there are none due at this point in time. So we'll need to note on the agenda when there are appointments need to be made. And these have to actually come from requests from the various organizations for us to report. Agreed?
I would offer that the County Redevelopment Commission that Kim sits on, we have an appointment that's Mike Schrader that is kind of a appointment unless he steps aside. I would think it would be appropriate for us to vote a vote of confidence to leave him on that from our part. So that is just a matter of record. Since there is no expiration date.
All right.
Is that a motion?
I will make that as a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. That shows unanimous. Thank you, Thor. Jorell.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The solid waste board is just requesting an additional appropriations for our 2022 budget of $80,000. That is basically to correct a, what do we want to call it, Tiffany?
To the county.
Invoicing situation that was over, didn't happen. We have the revenues in our accounts. We just need to make sure our budget is balanced at the end of the year. So the bill has already been paid. We just need to make sure we have enough revenue through the end of the year then in our budget to cover all of our expenses. So.
And this comes out of the solid waste management district budget.
Correct. It has no impact on taxes, anything like that.
And you just said this is a correction for bookkeeping?
Yeah, from 4 years worth of non-invoicing that happened.
I think we discussed.
As your representative on the solid waste board, we've spent a fair amount of time on this and with the entire solid waste board on how to handle this and what went wrong and what went right and what we're going to do in the future. And I would make a motion, or I would share with you, I'll hold on making the motion. I'd share with you that this is a decision that was made by the entire board to bring to council, and we're all in favor of it. It was unanimous.
Thank you, Thor. Do I have a motion for the additional appropriation?
I move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, or any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. That shows unanimous.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Biggs.
Morning. Amy Biggs, Whitley County Emergency Management. I have before you today a request for encumbrance that should have been for last month. There was a calamity of errors, if you will, with submission not being processed. It was stuck in the outbox. Didn't recognize that until I was not listed on the schedule to be heard. Then my intentions were to be present to be heard. And unfortunately, I had an incident that prevented me from being present to discuss that information with you. It was discussed with Tiffany, the best course of action then would to be able to submit the information to you for visibility and discussion today. happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding my request. These are funds that were unused in last year's budget. The purpose or the reason behind the delay in asking for these funds is there were significant supply issues on a broad area. As you will see, many of the items they requested are hazmat response associated equipment. That equipment is used for our response and mitigation of diesel spills or chemical spills that we encounter throughout the year. We can get those reimbursed depending upon the documentation that may take place. We also do assist the fire department in their response and replacements of those items. The training that's listed for Series 1037-001 in the amount of $1350 is fire extinguisher training that we did have scheduled last year but could not be coordinated due to COVID restrictions and or correspondence with the various employees and departments within the county. But that will move forward this year if we have those funds approved. 37001 also training, you see AED replacement pads for the AEDs. That was again one of those supply issues that I did not anticipate honestly that we would be delayed in receiving. They're actually just now scheduled to come this week. And they were ordered quite some time ago. They were on back order, a supply and demand issue. And then the other remaining request is for equipment and program maintenance for VHF and 800 radio replacement. As it was discussed in labor today, there is a significant backlog in the type of equipment that we have and end of life in much of the equipment that we have, and that is the request. All of those totaled combined. $16,428.05. Again, happy to answer any questions that you may have. I do not have that total amount as we did have a budget reduction this past year in any of those lines to suffice the total amount and still continue with normal operating console programs for the 2022 year.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Item number 37001.
Yes.
You said that was delayed due to COVID, so wouldn't that have been prior approved?
Yes, that was money that was in my account for last year to be able to fund that, but was not able to be facilitated, the training itself.
This is an encumbrance that typically would have been dealt with in January. The auditor's office has not closed the books for 2021 yet, so this can be encumbered for expenditure this year. He's paid this year for expenditures from last year.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request for encumbrances of a total of $16,428.05.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say, raise your right hand. Let the record show all voting members present.
Thank you, Council. I appreciate your support. Any questions or comments regarding the recent snow event that we experienced that you may have been representative of your communities? Have any questions?
I stayed in for 4 days, so I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I did what you said.
We appreciate that. I do appreciate everybody's patience and understanding as we navigated that. Kudos to Katie Fry and the team at County Highway. They did an extraordinary job, put in a lot of long hours to be able to make that possible. Mark Sturtevant and his crew from building maintenance made sure that the lots were cleared and accessible for anybody that did have to respond or come in. And again, our public safety didn't, as they always do, are committed to coming regardless of the weather and the experience that they have.
Well, we thank you for your dedication. You did great also.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mark Sturtevant.
Morning. Thank you for looking at this request. Every 5 years, we have to do a load test on the elevators. And the courthouse elevator failed. What it is the controller driver that tells the motor how much energy to ramp it up, depending on the load that's in the car. The only fix to this is to have a new driver controller made for that particular elevator. And the cost of that is $27,042. I'm here to ask that be paid out of Cap or rainy day fund. Obviously, this is not something that would have been budgeted for, or could we foresee?
Is the elevator out of operation?
It is not out of operation. It just will not lift the total capacity, which is 5,000 pounds. But it is operational. However, the state will not give us the operating permit for 2022 until it is.
How many pounds will it lift?
That's a good question. I do not know that.
It lifts me.
How do we know if it's safe or not if we don't know how much it'll lift?
It just wouldn't go up.
Could you get stuck in the middle?
So it's not gonna crash, it just won't go up.
It just wouldn't go up.
So somebody would just have to
We've
get off.
had 6, 7 people in there. It takes them up just fine.
Well, it lifted
As
10.
long as it's rated for 5,000, it's got to pick 5,000, not according to the state of Indiana.
And they have, every 5 years, it has to be
Yeah.
tested and proven that it can do that.
So what do? Just, they bring in 5,000 pounds and put in there and
Exactly.
Oh my God.
it wouldn't move.
Hard to bring.
Yes.
Can we have it re-rated to lower poundage?
Good question.
I don't know.
I don't know how you get 5,000 pounds worth of people in that elevator. It's not big enough. Seriously, I mean, 200 pounds a person, you get what, 8 people in there at the most?
Legally 6.
6 times, let's say they're 300-pound people.
I think
Times
there is
6.
a
It is 6.
6 capacity.
How would we ever get 5,000 pounds in there? I mean, is that the standard? Are we overrated? Do we need to be rated that high?
Well, the elevator is a 5,000 pound elevator, so I can't answer the question whether it can be re-rated or not. I can't answer that. What I can say is, in meeting with the commissioners, they have approved the repairs, and they have already started building the new controller driver. So we're committed at this point. I'm just asking if it can be funded in Cap or rainy day.
Did the commissioners have a recommendation for funding Camp or rainy day?
I believe when we talked about it, it was Cap. This was what, a few weeks ago
Yes.
when it actually broke. Okay.
I don't understand. That's a $27,000 purchase. I thought there was a limit on dollar amount of purchases that had to come to council to be approved before something like that could happen. So guess I don't understand why it's been approved to be fixed and they've started on the fix.
The
And you're
issue,
coming to us to ask us to approve it, but essentially you're gonna do it, you're already doing it.
It really wasn't an option as far as repairing it, because we're not allowed to operate the elevator without a current permit. The state, again, will not give us the permit to operate that elevator until the repairs are made. So we're kind of up against the wall there.
But that kind of falls back then, do we need 5,000 pound capacity? And will the elevator rate out at 4,000 and would that be sufficient? Because if it's limited to 6 people, I don't know 6 people that you'd be able to find that would fit in that elevator is going to weigh
Well,
5,000
I think
pounds.
they haul building material up there too, when you're redoing remodeling and things like that too. It's just not people.
But my question would still be, do we need to have it rated at 5,000 or could it be rated at a lower rate and it still be in compliance and being able to run the elevator, which would be significantly cheaper than spending $27,000?
If the controller's failing, of course, I don't know for sure, but it would stand to reason it's probably going to continue to fail. The other thing is if the elevator is a 5,000 pound elevator, I'm not sure you're going to be able to just re-rate it for a lower capacity.
but I can certainly look into that.
What's the delay time?
They,
We're already building it. There is
they're
no delay
building the
time.
new controller now.
So we're buying it, period.
Can I speak for 1 second? So with that, if the state comes in, they'll shut our elevator down and then people who are disabled will not be able to get to the other floors. So it was emergent and then it does become an ADA issue. And I don't know for sure, I haven't looked at the statute, but I don't think you can just say, I want mine rated 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds. I don't think that it works that way.
But we don't know
So
that for
when,
sure, so
if
that's all I'm
someone were
offering.
to try to make it to their court hearing and they can't make it up there, or file for office on the second floor, they wouldn't be able to do that. So it was an emergency.
Do we have a recommendation on which fund to take it out of?
Teresa, you said Cume Cap.
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Is that where, excuse me, is that where you think it needs to come from, Tiffany? But I mean, well, they gave us rainy day fund or Coon Cap, which,
And this is a capital expense. It should last more than 7 years.
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Take a motion, we approve the $27,042 out of Coon Cap.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I've dealt with the state on elevators because we have man lifts where I'm employed. Whatever the manufacturer, I believe, says that is rated, that's where it has to stay. So I don't think you can, I'm not sure, because those back there are 500 pounds. Well, they're 2 by 2 to try and get 500 in there, but just like somebody said, some of it, we take equipment up, it's going to weigh more than one person. So I think you're stuck at 5,000, I think, but I'm not sure.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve this expenditure from Cume Cap. All in favor, please raise your right hand. And let the record show it was unanimous of those present and voting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Westville Correctional issue, and Scott and I believe the sheriff are here to respond to this.
You have to bring your help with you.
I did have a gun with me today, so I brought it with me. Okay, I'm here. And I'm confused on why my office is involved in this, but
We need a basic explanation for some of the council members potentially, of what this is.
It's $5,000 a normal fee.
no.
Does everyone know what we're referring to?
I have no idea.
Okay, I got this thrown in my lap because Randy was actually going to handle this. This was billed outright to the commissioners. It should go through the commissioners' general fund.
Excuse me, Scott, can we delay a minute and get a summary of what happened from Cammie?
I think,
Or, I didn't, yeah, or Chad.
yeah.
So, we had an inmate who was sentenced, and died while he was there. He was in Westville.
Yes, was.
And so we received a bill for an autopsy, and I gave that to that shipment because I wanted to challenge that a little bit, because I felt like he was no longer our inmate, that he was sentenced somewhere else, and it didn't make sense to me that he would be on the paperwork. So he came back, and he had provided some state statutes and some codes that suggested that, in fact, the county in which the person was sentenced is liable to pay for the autopsy. And I still pushed back a little bit and said, well, what about the cost? This seems really high for an autopsy. And of course, it's not something that we have in our budget. It's something we've never seen before, to my knowledge, and to George's knowledge as well. And, you know,
I've been here since 2004. I've never had an inmate death that we got back billed So,
But as Chad said, there is a statute.
Yeah.
uh,
which I do have highlighted if you want copies of what was provided to me. But I guess I'm more confused on why it's been brought to my office when it's a bill that the commissioners are responsible for. My office has no involvement in it. It should come out of county general. And to answer your question, I can't control what other counties charge. Yes, that's 2 of our autopsies for 1 autopsy. But, you know, once again, I'm still confused on why my office isn't here.
I think the information you just gave is very pertinent to why you're here, just telling us the fact that it's twice the charge it could be. I think that's a question that Chad had, so.
We just backbilled Kosciuszko County for an infant death. I think it was $1,400.
Yeah.
And that includes our transportation, our investigation, and autopsy fee. However, I will say that Dr. Wagner and the Forensic Center are raising their rates. I think Tiffany already knows and Randy knows. So our cost of an average autopsy will probably go up about
1,800 or an additional 1,800?
No, $1,800 total.
I guess theoretically, we could take this out of the coroner's budget. I don't think we will, but
Would your line item for autopsies cover it?
I'm not,
Well,
And
the
then come
state
back-
statute says, clearly states you have to take this out of county general.
okay, it does. Yep.
Yeah, if you want me to run out and grab my law book, I will. But even my autopsies and blood, I'm only giving you an autopsy line as a courtesy.
Okay.
I think,
No, this should not come out of my budget. This is not my responsibility. This is not, in fact, I did make some phone calls yesterday afternoon, and it's clearly a commissioners must pay. And it
Okay.
even says so right there in the highlight.
So that's the information we need. Commissioners must pay. That way we have to determine where it
It's
comes
actually
from.
shall. I got Cammy
Shall.
commissioners reached out to me and I checked with sheriffs and a bunch of us throughout the state were stymied. We've never heard or seen this or been billed. So I reached out to Matt, they had already, and Matt was pretty sure we were stuck. So I checked with my legal deputy and she said the word shall in there for the commissioners, they're stuck. So I was giving a email to Department of Corrections man who took care of this, employee who took care of this. And his answer back when I questioned how high it was Westville or that county just has a higher autopsy rate. That's all I could get out. There was nothing, no more explanation other than they were higher than normal. I don't know if commissioners looked into it any farther, just sending them what they thought was.
Well, I pushed back to Matt Shipman a couple times, and at the end of the day, I just came to the realization that we have to pay it.
There's no doubt we're going to have to pay
We
it.
have to pay it.
And if you want the IC code that says that you have to pay it, it's IC 42442. In the first, there's no question it has to be paid. I understand that it's a higher rate than what we're used to working off of. We also, the coroner's office has worked off a shoestring budget for many years, which is probably going to be coming to an end. But, there's no volunteers out there anymore. You can't get people to volunteer for $100 to go out on a call. The messes that we're getting into, the equipment, fortunately I was good enough that I used grant money from previous supposed pandemics that I got through the state and the federal government to purchase equipment. That equipment now is gone. We've used it up. We can't get replacements. We've ordered and ordered and ordered, and we can't get replacements. I know I'm getting off topic here, but, there will become a day where I foresee Whitley County and the rest of the counties will be going up in price drastically.
What's sad is this inmate had been with the Department of Corrections. I mean, it was either 2018 or 19, he was sentenced out of Whitley County courts to go. So he's been a prisoner of the state for the last 4 to 5 years, but yet the statute says the bill comes back to the commissioners. Okay.
what was the results of the autopsy? Was there any wrongful death claim?
I don't have I have no power jurisdictions or anything.
They didn't send, if I remember right, they just sent
They only.
This is what they got from, is this the bill where the we know no results or anything.
If he was our prisoner in responsibility, I think that commissioners should ask for results of the autopsy and an explanation for why it is how much it is
I agree.
before we would pay it. I mean, it's like 4 months old now. What's another month for that communication to happen? And if they don't want to give us the results, that may be worthy of some sort of an investigation at the state
I
level.
think your attorney and county attorney could easily request, because we have to provide information to attorneys. Have your county attorney request the results and also an explanation of expenditures, because the way I'm looking at it, they break down autopsy performed for $5,000, toxicology for $240 or $54, and then they came up with their total. Well, I don't know of even any pathologist in the state of Indiana, forensic pathologist, I should say, that charges that much. I mean, Sozio is a little more than what the forensic center is, but you're still at $2,000. So I can't explain the expenditures or why they want to charge so much.
Thank you, Scott.
So
I really didn't expect it to come out of the coroner's budget. It's not
well,
there.
I was ready for a fight because, like I said, it's the commissioner's problem, not mine. This seems to be the theme of this year has been the coroner's going to solve everyone's issue.
Well, thank you for volunteering.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as Chad knows, I had an issue at Parkview of trying to throw a body into the coroner's world. It wasn't the coroner's case. It was on hospice care. And they didn't do their due diligence to notify the next of kin. And they were trying to put the body onto me for storage.
So the bottom line is, we have a bill of 5254, which by statute we're required to pay on it. It's our duty to figure out which fund it comes out of to pay it.
I would suggest maybe before we get to that point that we would put this back in the lap of the commissioners as far as maybe a favorable approval from council, that they look into getting the results and or an explanation of the charges.
That's all good and well, but remember we have attorney fees as well, so we're paying Matt to continue this. We keep moving it and not paying it. It's going to cost more at the end of the day. And I'm satisfied ultimately with Matt's decision on it, that we have to pay it. The money's due. We've been sitting on it for a long time. We've got past due notices. I think now is the time to just decide where the money's going to come from and get it paid.
Couldn't the commissioners just call them and say, could you be kind to send us an itemized bill? Why?
Yeah, we can do that.
They won't do it.
We'll try it. Whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, I'm convinced that we're going to come back again and say the bill's still here, we still owe, and
I understand.
It's a bill, we got to pay it.
I could be in favor of determining where the funds come from, authorizing the payment, but withholding the payment until at least there's communication, if not through the attorney, at least through the means by which we've already had communication saying our counsel would like to see these documents. And if they refuse, they refuse.
I don't think that's out of line to ask of them.
When we backfill another county, which we have several times over the last year and a half, that fund all goes back into county general. Surely there's some funds in county general. We just did Kosciuszko and Noble County last month. So that'd be almost enough to pay the bill.
How much do we have in county general right now? Maybe we can't afford to pay.
Send that letter to them and see what the state has to say.
We have just over.
So you're saying there's enough to cover it?
Do I have a motion to authorize payment for this bill for this autopsy from County General?
It has to be paid. I'll make the motion to pay the bill. It has to be paid.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. So let it show that it passes.
Anything else while I'm here?
You answered my question.
I did?
Yes.
Well,
Thank you for being here, Scott.
The price is high.
yes. When I first got it, I had a heart attack. So I said, okay, radiation.
Commissioners report.
Yes. So we've been moving along on the jail. As far as a timeline, so we did get one from Lisa Lee at Ice Miller. It's tentative, so I can forward that to you guys. And I believe right now, we have to get 50 signatures from constituents? Kenny, I'm assuming you got that. Okay. But basically, it's got March 29th is the bond sale from Ice Miller. So, and then there's many steps before that. So I'll send that to you guys so you guys can go over that. We are moving forward with that. We would like to see movement sooner rather than later because the price just keeps going up and up and up and up. So we are moving forward on that. Today, we are also going to be meeting with a company that helps different internet providers sort of come into an area to ensure that it all gets covered. We don't see it likely that one provider would be able to cover the entire county. So what they do, they actually reached out to us. They sort of pull all of the players in to get different sections of an area covered. So I guess we're going to see what they have to say and see if they can help Whitley County. Jill's taken up a lot of our time. Commissioner Banks, is there anything that you'd like to add? Okay.
Before we go to the minutes of the previous meetings, the Personnel Committee does have a recommendation that we support the sheriff's request for a part-time transportation officer. We have approved this. It's already in the budget. So do I have a motion for the part-time transport officer for the sheriff's department?
Make a motion to approve it.
I have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Let it show it is unanimous. Thank you. Meeting minutes. We actually have the December minutes as they are corrected. Do I have a motion to approve the corrected minutes from the December 7 meeting?
Make a motion.
A motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
May I ask before we go to the vote, what the changes were, please, or the corrections? Because I didn't get a copy of the corrected minutes. The only ones that I ended up seeing was from
The originals.
yeah.
Okay, so let's look at your notes. Are you on here? Okay,
There were two things.
Well, then I will just abstain and you guys can go ahead and pass it.
I did get a copy,
There
so,
was too small.
okay. Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Note one abstention. And this complicates things. The chair in December was Thor, he abstained. So he just doesn't sign it as chair. Okay. All right. And you received the January 4th minutes. Do I have a motion to accept, or are there any corrections, additions, deletions?
Remove.
A motion, do I have a second, please?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. And again, Councilman Hodges abstains because he was not present. Let it show that unanimous of those present and voting. Commissioner Barrett,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Wester,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Augubright.
You have these packets, Tim, Thor and myself. I don't know if any other councilmen, and I know Teresa, I think you were, the thing that the mayor put on, talking about reduction of property tax. It's been in the, down at Indy. Doesn't look like they're going to act upon it this session, but it could come up. So at your leisure, look at these. It talks about reduction of taxes, and that will have to come from somewhere else. Probably will come up at the next session next year. So that's all I have.
A personal property tax affects not only income, but also incentives that we have used in the past. Thank you. Oh, Commissioner Warner,
I have nothing else.
Commissioner Hodges,
I have nothing.
and I have nothing to add. Anything from the audience?
You did not sign the minutes, so when it comes back through, you need to sign.
Thank you.
Staff of the Health Department, I just want to let you know at the Commissioners meeting, they did agree to allow the Health Department to move forward into occupying the space departed from WIC. So that does involve around $8,000 in change. The Health Department will be covering with cleaning and maintenance and new equipment purchases to move our offices into that space. So the Health Department will exist only on that side of the aisle sometime in March. So, questions with that?
Anyone else from the constituency?
I know Kimberly, Whitley County Assessor. I know some of you did attend that legislative conference. Tiffany and I talked just a little bit. I believe our governor might be on the side of things where he doesn't feel that it's going to be that big of an impact to some of our counties, but I just want to let you know that it is going to have an impact on, it's going to have a negative impact on the county. You know, just taking that $40,000 exemption to $80,000 for this year's returns that they're required to file on. We have right now currently about 2,100 active personal property, business personal property records. And we're taking that 40,000 to 80,000, that's going to affect about 600 of our returns, to where they were typically paying taxes between that 40 and 80,000 on that amount, and now they're going to be exempt. And especially if the state takes that 30% floor on our small business personal property returns and decreases that, that's going to have an effect as well. So maybe in the larger counties in the state, that's not going to be that big of an impact to them, but being a smaller county for us, we'll probably see some effects of that.
And would you recommend that people contact our state legislators to tell them?
Absolutely. Because there was a bill this year that died to take that 80,000 to 250,000, but that bill died. So
How many would that affect, Kim?
the majority. And then you got to realize too, you know, how many you have that have personal property abatements that have been approved. You know, when we're looking at that part of it, what's going to happen to the companies that have had those abatements approved and how that could affect them as well. So I think it's very important to advocate from this level and this side of things, because I would imagine we'll probably see that bill back next year. You can anticipate on that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no further comments, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Okay. Council members, there's one more item. We